kickstart the show with first introducing our guest. And more than a guest, he's actually a really dear friend of mine. So I'm personally very thrilled to have Asad Lalljee on the show today. Asad, as a lot of you know, is the curator of the Royal Opera House in Bombay. He was responsible for getting the Opera House started after 25 years. So truly iconic monument here in Bombay, and a truly iconic moment for a lot of us here in Bombay when he, raised that curtain and set out that red carpet. And I was very much there to witness him in all his glory, with the opening. He's also the CEO of Avidlearning, which is the SR Group's initiative for learning, creativity, etc. It's their platform to sort of promote the arts. In his prior avatar, he was in advertising. He's done the whole New York spiel, and he's going to be talking a little bit about his past avatar, his present, and perhaps some plans he has for the future as well. He's obviously a very avid learner himself, very royal in his own aesthetics and his own tastes. And of course, more than anything else, just a man with a golden heart. And I think I've known you more than a decade now, Asad. So I've really seen your journey.
Yeah.
I think I must have been there for the first or second workshop you held at Avid. And I can't wait for this lockdown to end and come back and attend one of those fabulous workshops. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm just going to kickstart, guys, as all of you know, if you've been watching the show, I love to kickstart with education because, that's what we do and that's what I really believe in. So, Asad, first question over to you. A little bit about your, early years, educational background. Just give us a little sneak peek into your foundation years.
Well, again, thanks for having me, Vibha. And I think the first thing I want to say before I get to my education is the kids of today are so lucky to have someone like you and Reach Ivy. I remember when I was applying for my graduate school applications, I used to go to the USIS at Churchgate. And
Right.
this is pre-internet. This is close to 3 decades ago. And it used to be, I used to be buried in these big folders and, there was no one to guide you, no one to handhold you. And, but we all made it. We made it there and we did what we had to. But I think y'all guys are so lucky to have organizations like Reach Ivy who are there to help you in your educational pursuits. But coming back to my education, I was born and educated in Bombay. It was Bombay at that point of time. I went to St. Mary's School. I was what they call a Lego child. So I wanted to be an architect. So I did 2 years of science at St. Xavier's College. And then nepotism took over and I decided to join my father's business, which was advertising. When I moved from science to arts, which was no guided arts, at that point of time, like, what is wrong with you? You can do eco, so it's okay.
Right.
So I graduated from St. David's College. And then when I was in college, I was like I think I always loved going for these talks and workshops. I think it was been in a little bug that's been in me since the beginning. And I used to go to the Ad Club of Bombay. I used to hear all these, see these fantastic creative presentations from all over the world. And this is pre-internet, guys. So, it's not that I could Google anything or not that even Mad Men existed at that point for y'all to see. And then, I'd done when I was in my undergrad, I did a graduate degree in diploma in advertising from Casey College. And I did whatever I could in India from the education perspective at that point of time. MICA would be another great school, but that wasn't even around at that point of time. And somehow I got this bug that someone told me you belong on Madison Avenue, and I didn't know what that was, and I couldn't Google it. So, but I figured it out, and I charted my journey towards Madison Avenue, and I decided to apply to graduate schools to do my master's in advertising, and get to New York somehow. And so I chose schools in the area of New York on the East Coast, so I went to a small communication school in Boston, a very good liberal arts school called Emerson College, and post that I moved to New York and pursued my dreams, and I think I made them a reality at some point.
Absolutely. And you're making, a reality out of many people's dreams through what you currently do. So I want to understand, how did you map that journey from, studying advertising, working on Madison Avenue, and then coming back to India and entering the so-called field? I know we came up with this name. We said, let's call it arts management. So what is arts management? And Why did you go down this path?
So it's a very interesting story. I mean, I'll have to take, since these are two questions, I'll need the 2 minutes and 4 minutes to answer it.
Take it. I love stories.
I'm
So
kidding.
go for it.
So, I moved back for personal reasons, and I decided to go from from agency to client side, which was quite the trajectory for most people in advertising as they climb their careers.
Right.
And I was recruited by the SR Group, and it was wonderful. And I was in New York at that point, and I mean, I was visiting, and I got a job, and I was going to be a part of the brand and corporate strategies group, which I was. And Avid existed before it was started by Mrs. Madhuriya as an adult learning and a continuing education platform. And she asked me to help her on a project. And, you can't say no to the super boss. So I said, sure. And I kind of got drawn in a way. And we kind of go on the same wavelength, but I kind of got drawn in, and I kind of started enjoying what I was doing. And then she offered me, she said, would you like to take it and grow it? And I said, sure. But I didn't know what I was saying, because I mean, this is end of 2010 when I moved here. See,
Right.
arts and culture has evolved. I mean, as an industry, has evolved a lot since in the last 10 years. And even the consumption of arts and culture has evolved. It wasn't that prolific in a way, that
Sure.
omnipresent in a way. And when I said yes, I said sure. And I started working on it. I started chipping away, doing one project after another, after another. Yes, I had a vision, I had a mission, I had, again, one of the things which I actually always firmly believe when it comes to arts management, I don't think arts is some loosey-goosey hobby or something. It's a proper business. It is a very legitimate industry that employs a lot of people world over, and also generates a lot of revenue world over. So if you put that hat on and you put your normal principles of marketing, business plans, all that fun stuff that you do for other things, and you look at the arts that way, that's the only way it will succeed. But it has to come with a lot of passion. I mean, that's just has to be mixed in, but it has to be.
So do you actually truly look at your work from the lens of a businessman?
I mean, I would like to say so, but no. I like to think of myself as a cultural producer. And, the way I look at it, and the way I've been curating for the past now close to 10 years is I look at the arts as a product or a service, something that's soft, which needs a lot of hand-holding, a lot of nurturing, lot of nourishing. But it can't just be that. It has to be financially viable. It has to, you can't be everything to everyone. You have to focus on your target. You have to have a target audience. You have to have a projection plan. You have to have a growth plan. You have to have partners. You have to have your channels. And you have to have distribution. And now in today's day and age, digital is a distribution. So if you look at it from a lens of how you would treat any other business, and manage any other business, but give it a lot of, I mean, it's a passion project at the end of it. And, with the arts, you're dealing with creative people, you're dealing with creativity, which is different.
Right.
But I had a little bit of that experience because when I was in New York and I worked in advertising in Madison Avenue, the various agencies I was at, I mean, I was a suit. And what was my job? It was to manage creativity. You had to manage the creatives, and you had to make sure the agency made money and the best creative was sold to the client and was produced. And you learn that juggling, you learn a little bit of diplomacy, a little bit of humanity, a little bit of being a hard ass, a little bit, can I say that? Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
And a combination of all that to make it work. Because, these are uncharted territories. There's no proof or some, kind of a formula that this works and this doesn't. So,
So, when you spoke about, you're talking to artists, and obviously they perhaps don't view, their art purely as a form of business. So how in your work do you find, and, and as you're talking, I can obviously, and having known you personally, I know that you're not all about the money bags, right? Like, you approach your work with a lot of soul, a lot of heart. but at the same time,
Sure.
you sort of have to balance this. So how do you strike that balance? And how do you then convey that balance back to the artist and say, you know what, we're gonna have to do it this way. So
Right.
how do you do that for someone who's considering this career or someone who's managing other artists?
See, at the end of it, artists also realize the reality of the situation. And as long as they know that you're not the bad guy and you're the one who's trying to make it happen, I think
Right.
it's a collaborative ecosystem, and at the end of it, you all become friends. I mean, it really happens is you
Right.
work once, twice, and then, you're all, on whatever. It becomes basically an ecosystem of support, collaboration. And, you know, there has to be a business angle to it, but there also has to be the softer, the artistic angle to it. And if you can, and which is one thing which I do with the Opera House, is use your stage or use your platform to support, to present, to show art and artists of different calibers, different stages in their life. Not just like all the big leagues and big names and stuff. Okay, they'll fill the room, but give the
Yeah.
newbies a chance. Give the underdog a chance, because everyone had started somewhere, and
Right.
a lot of people are then with you. I mean, I was just today, I was, sanctioning a program that we're doing in August. I've done 7 editions of this program, worked it's a masterclass with this particular person. It's just because we've worked together and over the years, and you have this kind of a relationship, you have an
Sure.
understanding. And I mean, I don't want to make money off other people. That's never been my MO.
Mhm.
So, and, you know, if you can help them in the due course of the way, and figure out models that are revenue generative. It's very difficult, and especially now it's going to be even more. But it kind of works at the end of it. I really
So
feel
what
so.
I'm hearing is that, for the artists, you come across first as their friend and then as their manager or someone who sort of like, so
They have their managers.
it's building the relationship and the
I,
trust.
I mean, I come across as myself. I'm exactly like this. I call a spade a spade. I'm a straight shooter. I tell them when they're wrong. I tell them when they're right. I tell them how much I can pay and how much I can't. I
Sure.
mean, if you want to work with that, that's great. I mean, there's a little bit of other stuff that one does. Is then
Hmm.
you become an evangelist for them. You help them
Sure.
out. They help you out. You refer. Like again today, there's another thing. It's like somebody I had done a project with. She wrote to me, said, "Oh, he's such a great pianist. I'm so glad you're having him perform at the Opera House. I mean, the premiere, our online
Sure.
version." I said, "But I met him at your event."
Right.
So I helped something. I said, "It's an ecosystem. We all help each other. These are circles where we collaborate. There are concentric circles overlapping all the time. So yeah,
Okay. I'm glad you approach it with this sort of, it's almost spiritual in some sense. You're looking at yourself as a conduit
no,
and not sort of this
mm,
creator of sorts. I like that.
yeah, I mean, you can call yourself a creator, you can call yourself a curator, you can call yourself a producer. I mean,
Sure.
it's just a name at the end of it. And
Sure.
and I firmly believe that you're as good as your last program and your last
Sure.
event. So you just and I think relationships um, um, are just something you need to nurture, and you're dealing with human beings at the end of it. So you have to be cognizant of that. This is not a service or a product or a hardware or software.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that,
Okay. And since you brought up the Opera House, let's sort of shift gears to the Opera House. I mean, obviously, as I said, iconic moment for the building, iconic moment for us here in Bombay, absolutely historical moment here. How did it all happen? Tell us the backstory. How did it even get started?
so it started with I was approached. The person who did up the Opera House, the conservation architect Abha Narayan Lamba, is again a friend because we worked together
Uh,
on several
Sorry, Asad, if
projects.
I could just interrupt you, someone
Sure.
just put a comment about not being able to
Yeah.
see your face. If you could just shift your face a little
Huh.
bit to the other side. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I think it's the questions that are on my face she
Yeah,
doesn't like. So I can't help
that's
that.
true. Okay, yeah,
I'm
but
not that
this
bad
one.
looking. Don't worry. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
So Abha had, who was the conservation architect for the project, had suggested my name, and there were a couple of others for this, and I was chosen as the curator. And This was in I think April or May of 2016, and the
Okay.
Opera House was slated to be opening in October of that year. And I thought, wow, it's cool. I mean, I had never programmed for a venue directly. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I actually learned on the job. But just, once you go into that place, it's so magical. It just captures you. And I saw it when it was under construction to when it was complete. I actually took my talent, my artists, to the stage to check out the sound quality when there were cement bags sitting in the auditorium. It was under construction. There
Oh,
were
wow.
scaffoldings, and there was a pigeon flying, and the cement flew with the pigeon. It was one of those surreal ghost moments, when she was checking out the timber of her aria, and so I was asked to do this, and I took it really as a challenge, because how do you take a place that has been closed for 25 years and bring it back to life in its glory?
Mm.
And I'm a firm believer in democratizing the arts and making arts accessible for all. And despite being an accessible, all in space, I wanted it to be something that everyone can get something out of, and
Mm-hmm.
also languages, not just English, and also especially for kids. And so,
What
you know,
was
the
that the mission of the, I think the Maharaja of Gondal, I believe, owns a property.
so
Was
it's a
that his mission
privately
as
owned.
well, or was that something? Yeah.
I think they're one of the most fantastic people you could meet in your life. I mean, they're it's privately owned, privately funded. It's been in their family since 1952. They had no reason to spend all this money, do it up, and just give it back to the city, which they did. I mean, anybody with any will know that you will never recover the cost you put in to run a theater of that sort scope. But they just did it as a passion, as a way of conservation. They obviously have many heritage properties that they conserve, but just as a philanthropist, as a true cultural philanthropist, they did it and they gave it back. And I think in a way there was a trust where they trusted me to program, and they have a wonderful family friend who's the honorary director, Ashish Doshi, who's
Hmm.
also become a friend. All these everybody becomes a friend at the end of it.
Sure.
And we work together, and we've managed to, in 3.5 years of being open, we managed to put that venue on the map. It was busy 5 nights a week at least.
Hmm.
We managed to do the most fantastic programs. We defied every rule possible, and that's my thing. Is I love blending. I love bringing, mixing the contemporary with the traditional. I love mixing, Western with Indian, and anything that defied easy categorization. I would say yes, we're going to do it. And we
Sure.
roll the dice on many projects, many festivals, many programs, and we were blessed because the city of Bombay actually embraced the Opera House when it opened. See, there's no point having a place and no one comes to. A free show or a morning
Absolutely.
show or a children's show, they were there.
So
And
how did the
I mean,
opening?
yeah.
You guys opened with the Mami Film Festival, which is the most iconic film festival in the country. And I was there. I attended that event, and it was just beautifully lit up and the red carpet and just the whole experience.
Sure.
How did that happen? How did Mami
So
approach you guys? You approach them? Like, how did?
So I can't take any credit for that, to be very honest. That
Okay.
happened even before May of 2016. See,
Okay.
Opera House has a very rich film legacy. I mean, the biggest
Sure.
Bollywood films at that time, it wasn't even called Bollywood, were launched there, ran there for many, many years, like Amar Anthony and among others. So it was only fitting when it was being launched again that a festival like Mami's opening would be there, and that was done. was negotiated or approached before and all set before I came. In fact, I barely worked on. I mean, I only worked personally on that project. But
Sure.
my whole thing was you're opening an opera house after 25 years with a film festival. So we need to do something of our own. So you were invited the very next day. I don't know whether you came or not. I don't remember. There were like 500, 700 people there. But what I did was I planned the opening program where I had to set the tone for Mumbaikars of the kind
Sure.
of programming we would expect. And since you're an opera house, we have to have opera. And so we did our opening night with operatic arias and song, a small performance and a reception, and I invited all the stakeholders of the arts and culture world to attend.
Sure.
And
Hmm.
just not that I wanted to show what I've done, it's just that this is for you. Now tell me what you want to do. You know, it's like a collaborative space. And then
Sure.
the next day we had the Paranjyoti Choir and others, and then invited people in slowly and steadily, and made it a collaborative space. If everybody has a project, I don't think anybody can just say that I have not met them or returned an email or a phone call if they've
Sure.
asked me about a project. That's why one thing is we listen to everybody, we meet everybody, we actually meet everybody also. I mean, I
Sure.
may not meet everybody, but my team does. So,
So as you're
and
curating these events, what goes on in your mind, right? Like if someone sort of requests a, if someone sends you a proposal, how do you how are you evaluating what's going on in your
so
mind? What are some of the factors?
So the two problems here. There's madness. Second thing is I have a hard problem saying no to anyone, which is
Hmm.
so my team kicks me under the table. No, I'm just joking. You know, the idea you see something that is special, an idea, a project, somebody needs a little help because we use our stage a lot because this is under the patronage of the royal family of Gondal. So we
Sure.
have that liberty of if there is somebody interesting or we do so many arts for social change, so many NGOs and organizations have their annual days and their memorial days and their fundraisers at the place, and we support it because if you can lend your stage as a voice for somebody to do something bigger, I think it's fantastic.
Asad, I just request you to move I'm getting some
Okay,
messages from people on WhatsApp.
again,
Just move a little bit.
all
Yeah,
right,
maybe a little bit more, and then
more.
your face will be away from these comments.
Okay, you want me to be off center?
Yes,
Abel told
yes,
me to
yeah.
be in center. Okay,
But I think in
now
this
you'll
case,
get
this
to see
is
my
yeah,
wonderful
yeah,
face.
yes,
Okay,
yes, yes, yes.
all right.
Okay, awesome. So you're saying you wanted like this array of, you wanted this variety of events.
Yeah, I think it's not events. It's very thought through curated programs, and also there's a trajectory of growth. It's not just a random programs you put together. So what we
Mhm.
do is, opera is a foreign language, for lack of a better word. So
Sure.
it's not part of our common vocabulary. So what I would do is I would create these workshops: Opera 101, Opera 2.0, Opera Appreciation. We did the same thing with jazz. We did the same thing with theater. So you actually help people learn and build their interest and their expertise in the genre through the programming.
Hmm.
And it's one thing I'm uh, very interested in is kids and kids education because that's our future stakeholder. I mean, as I said, the older kids who are going to grad school or college right now are so lucky, but the younger kids also today are so lucky compared to we were. You have so much access to this arts and culture that
Sure.
it kind of can help and create such an important impression on these young impressionable minds. So that's
Sure.
why I always encourage kids to come there, even if there's no program. I say bring your kids and I'll take them for a walk through around the space
So I know
because
you've done many kids events. You did like the book festival.
not many,
Um,
but yeah, a few. Yeah,
I've also
we,
attended many free events, at the Opera House.
yeah,
And when that was happening, I was actually very positively surprised. I was like, wow, I get to go, to this iconic venue and attend this most amazing programming and for free, you know.
yeah.
So even with the Opera House, and I think we have a question from Rajhans, who says, "So how do you balance, the aspect, same thing with the creativity along with the running of a profitable business with the Opera House? How did you guys, what was the vision of, the founders, your personal vision in terms of, same thing, the balance between creativity and
I think it
monetizing
all
such an venue?"
it all overlaps. The Opera House is a commercial venue. It's a venue for hire. I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
goes without saying. And we make it an accessible venue for all, across various stratas and genres of music, theater, the NGOs, and also brands and corporates and events, because that's where our bread and butter comes from, that allows me to do programs the kind I want to. Most of our events are, if they're ticketed events, they're ticketed, and the tickets are nominal. Unfortunately in India, ticketing just doesn't cover the whole cost.
Sure, yeah.
But the idea is to, is also to create a need, create a consumption pattern, and maybe do a few free. And then people
Mm-hmm.
will start paying and coming. And, but the idea is to also get people to appreciate the art. And
Right.
especially a lot of the art forms, the traditional art forms, which need this kind of patronage. And because we're a commercial venue, and because we have the patronage of the family, we've earmarked a few events with
Mm-hmm.
the family, in number and quantity, that we do for spreading our vision and our mission in the programming, and giving access to people, and educating, not directly educating, but giving them that opportunity to learn something new.
Okay. So it's something you've sat across the table and talked about and said, okay, X number of nights a
Kind of,
year, let's sort of kind of. Okay.
yeah.
Broadly, fine.
Good.
I'll take a question here from Samar Jodha, who says,
Oh,
in
hello,
this
Summer.
changed in the changed world of tomorrow, how different, what kind of approach is needed for young people?
Um,
I'm not sure if she means from the artist perspective, from the manager's perspective, but please feel free to answer.
Summer is a very, very talented photographer, uh,
Okay.
and we've also done some projects together. So I just feel, post March, everything changed for everyone. And the way we consume the arts and culture, the way we project it as producers and as consumers has changed, and is going to be changed forever. Yes, the Opera House will be back. We will be sitting in a live auditorium in the hopefully near future, in the next couple of months. People will go back out, we hope. And things will be back to normal, but people will still consume online, as they have been for many, many years. I mean, it's online, and technology and all is not a new thing. It's been around forever. It's just that now it's been thrusted upon people because they don't have a choice.
Sure.
And people have started programming for it because there is a need. And the arts has that effect of
The draw,
binding
yeah. Yeah.
binding civil society. It is a catalyst for change. I mean, the best art comes out of struggle. I mean, sorry, it sounds terrible saying it, but you look at countries which have political issues. I mean, I'm just trying to be politically correct in this conversation.
Sure.
But you see the visual arts, the literature, the poetry that comes. Summer has done the most fantastic work on the Bhopal tragedy project. I mean, there are all these COVID museums are coming up, and with hashtags you can create things. There's so many digital platforms that are coming up. A lot of the major institutions that we consider as our mom and pop of the arts and culture world, like the MoMA, or which came out after the Spanish flu. The Tribeca Film Festival was a direct reaction to 9/11, to
Oh,
kind of generate, and I was there at that point of time, which has now become one of the leading film festivals and benchmarks that people look up to. And for young people, I think the young people have always been online. They continue to be online. I think you have to program, you have to talk. You can't be everything to everyone in what you do. So you decide how you want to do it. I think I'm kind of very fascinated by this audience because they are the stakeholders of tomorrow. They are the stakeholders of today. So we started also programming specifically to them. We've started a whole art series targeted to a younger audience. I mean, we just did a panel discussion last week on meme art and arts engagement in the post-internet world. And then, the way you do it is you partner with younger organizations, you attract younger organizations, younger audiences, and you, you dialogue with them. I mean, they want to talk to you as much as you want to talk to them. You just have
Sure.
to talk a little bit nuanced language. So yeah, that's the way you encourage a younger stakeholder base. Hopefully,
Okay.
I answered Samar's question.
Samar, I hope he answered your question. I'm going to
Don't say
pick up
no.
a question here from Manas Parikh, who says, what do you think about the integration of performing arts and technology in the future?
I There's no future. It's already happened. It's happening now. It's happened some time back. We're just seeing it now. See, we're all sitting at home and we're all, getting access to the most wonderfully curated, wonderfully produced, produced, shot, 20 camera setup, operas and performances
Sure.
and stuff of the world. And we're all getting it for free at the moment. That is the problem. And we're all consuming it. And I think it is going to be a way of consumption. There are platforms like Netflix for culture that have been around for a few years, and they're looking at this time. In fact, we did a collaboration with one of them, and they're looking at this time as a time to kind of spread their message and use themselves as a platform. I think technology has been around for a long time, is integral to our life and isn't going anywhere. And I think what has happened in these last 3-4 months of our lockdown is people in the production capacity is people, artists have started using it. There's so many collaborative
Sure.
performances. There's so many online performances that happen. Online is never going to replace the real sitting in an opera house or going to a museum. Just get that straight. But in this world, sure, you can take a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And it's going to be a combination of both, but it's going to be there.
While we're on this topic, do you want to talk a little bit about the initiatives that you are doing personally at Avid and the Opera House
Sure.
in terms of your digital programming currently?
Sure. So in March, see, Avid has flirted with a little digital stuff in the past, including just pushing out our programs on Facebook Live and all this few years ago, maybe 2 years ago. But in March, middle of March, we realized that this is not going to be a good thing. So what we did was we just kind of created, in 2 weeks, we created an online platform for Avid. We called it Avid Online. And we launched on the 1st of April. We were barely ready, but we launched on the 1st of April, to be very honest. And what we did was we launched with pre-recorded 7-minute videos, 7 days a week at 7 p.m., 777. And so the idea is to take what Avid does and give it to as a abridged version to our stakeholders and also to other stakeholders, but do it in a way that it has a little bit of longevity. It has a degree of. We call that program to now move into, so we do live masterclasses. We had a very successful one on travel and food writing last weekend. 2 weekends before, we had one on the future of textiles and sustainability. And
So
so
these are live
robust,
programming. This is live programming.
live program.
The
Yeah.
master class.
So
Okay,
we do panel discussions and master classes and these pre-recorded videos. So it's a mixture of that. And we do it through a lot of it also through our old collaborators and partners who we've worked with in the past. In fact, we had planned a sustainability series with the CSMVS with Mr. Mukherjee and his team. And because we had planned it, we decided we're just going to do it, because who knows when we can get back and start doing these live events. So we had a season 1 of this series in the first week of July, which was a whole week of programming towards World Environment Day, and we're having the second season in August. We partner with the NGMA and present, because again, that's a venue I use all the time. Every month I have a program there around art. And the whole idea of democratizing the arts and also attracting the younger audiences was the series I had pitched, the CSMVS, which is what we're doing with them. And also, we work a lot within the visual art space, so collaborating with all the art galleries to present a series called The Artist Behind the Art, which is also looking at what is this period doing or saying or to an artist, and the work that how they look at their work, what is their legacy, how is their practice going to change? A little, as I joke and say, anything I can't Wikipedia about you, I want to know. So, and also literature as a genre we work with a lot. And so we've partnered with the Tata Literature Live. Literature Live, Anil is one of our oldest collaborators, and we present our master classes with them, and we're doing some collaborations hopefully with JLF soon. And so it's a pretty robust program for Avid. And for Opera House, I created a similar program which is called Premiere, which are these pre-recorded 30-minute videos across the genres, and those are aired twice a week. We have 9 episodes a month, and they are pretty interesting, I must say.
Okay, that's awesome. So lots of programming, lots of collaboration, lots of ways of staying connected with your audiences, lots of ways of having the audiences connected back with the arts.
Sure.
All sounding fabulous. I have a follow-up question from Manas, the guy who asked about technology. He's asking not just in terms of sort of plain Jane technology, but in terms of virtual reality, augmented reality. Do you see that sort of super high-tech access coming into the arts as well?
I think that's also already there, but yeah, I think it should become more omnipresent as time goes by, as technology becomes more and more part of everyone's daily consumption patterns and ways of operating and modus operandi, for lack of better words. That's just the next step. It's there in many parts, but I definitely think it is there. So.
Sure. Okay. Take this question from Shalini Goenka, who says, could you elaborate a bit on the travel workshop? You spoke about a travel workshop?
Sure. So we did a travel and a food and travel writing workshop. It's interesting. His name is Varun Gupta. He wrote this very interesting book called Bhagwan Ke Pakwan, and it was his travel journey. And I actually ran into him at the Jaipur Lit Fest last year, and we started talking over a beer. And we said, okay, I said you must do a workshop for me, and we had actually planned a workshop. And unfortunately, what happened was COVID happened, and we had to cancel the workshop in March. So we did this online, and we did it as a masterclass. And it was very interesting because, the way you teach online and the way you do it offline is very different. Varu did an excellent job. I think the feedback we got also was excellent. And what we did was we gave people an opportunity also to be part of the workshop. So send us your favorite travel or food story, and along with an image, whether it's a photograph, an illustration, and you qualify to get your work kind of critiqued, and you also get a book, one of those freebies. So it was a very interesting workshop. Avid has done a lot of travel. We do a lot of workshops. Vibha, you've been to many of them. So almost every alternate Saturday, we have a workshop at our corporate headquarters, which is at Mahalakshmi SR House. And writing workshops are one of the genres we actually do a lot with, and we work a lot very closely with many of the publishers and authors. And as I was mentioning earlier, we just don't do it once. If we do a creative writing, then we do a advanced creative writing, then we do a screenwriting. Then now I'm doing a screenwriting for the digital age, because you have to screenwriting for OTT, which is one of the workshops we're working on for August. So yeah.
Okay, Shalini, I hope that answered your question. But it seems like they're completely in tune with what's going on, with their audiences, and they're really trying to curate the workshops to suit the current times. I'm going to pick up a question here from Naam To Sunahi Hoga. Okay, the question is, what are some of the challenges you face in the process of making art accessible for all? So that it's a very noble mission, but what do you go through?
Uh, I think if you have that belief and that goal, I don't think there are too many challenges. Yes, money comes as a challenge, but that's everywhere. If you
Hmm.
ask anybody, arts money is a problem. You ask anybody about today, the first thing they say, "Oh, there's no money in the market." So you just keep the money aside and first do the work. I think I think I'm very fortunate. We're part of the SR group, so so we do have um, resources to help make things happen. The
Sure.
Opera House is a privately owned, privately funded organization. So I'm privileged, but there are
Hmm.
lots of organizations out there, not enough compared to the rest of the world. I can give you statistics which will make us cry, but still there is stuff happening. And I just feel if you put out good work, people will notice and people will come and help you. And I think if you really have, certain fundamentals of collaboration, just bring in more partners. I joke, I said, more logos. I think a poster looks prettier and makes it more interesting. So just bring them in. Let everybody bring something to the table. Will make what you're trying to do easier. This is not an easy time for artists, and there are lots, and through Opera House and stuff, we have tried to do our part to support these initiatives. There are such wonderful initiatives of artists coming together to support other artists. And in this time of crisis, I mean, it's really sad. I mean, performers who come and perform, as extras or as
Yeah.
accompanists in the Opera House are finding it hard to put food on their table.
Yeah.
And the point is the artist community has come together. Opera House is hopefully supporting something in the near future to actually help these initiatives that people are putting together. So yeah, democratizing the arts is not exactly easy, but it's doable. You just have to keep chipping at it and don't take no for
Sure.
an answer.
Sure. Thank you so much for addressing that. I hope that answered your question. Going to take one more question here from someone called Uf Mirchi, who asked about a career in arts management and how does one even get started? She says, if I want to pursue this career, how do I get started?
First, you get a job in the arts to
Hmm.
start with. I know, I'm just kidding. I mean, it's just that, as I mentioned, arts management is management.
Hmm.
It's you look at the arts not just as arts management, like a business or like a
Sure.
form, a work, a project, a work. It has all the parameters and all the uh,
The
the
makings,
uh, the
the
makings
ingredients.
and what you need to run a normal business. What you
Sure.
need, one thing it really needs is passion. You really have to believe in the arts. You have to be interested. You have to be eager. Like you have to want to hear what's happening. You want to keep learning about something new, and that's the way to do it. But there are a few programs in arts management from an education perspective coming up in India. I know we did an arts management workshop with Fiki last year. But there are a few programs. I think Micah has a very interesting program that they're doing in Ahmedabad. But besides that, I think getting into a position where you are excited about being there and you have someone who's willing to teach you. I think that's what it takes as the first steps. And then as your career progresses and as you grow and as you expand, because you have to look at expanding beyond your geographies. And
Sure.
now we're not a Bombay versus a Delhi versus an India. We're a global platform. I mean,
Sure.
everything has been democratized in a way. Everything's flattened
Hmm.
with what has happened since the last few months. I mean, now I can have, it's so wonderful. We had a panel that day. We had somebody sitting in Pondicherry, somebody sitting in Bangalore, and somebody sitting in Switzerland, and me sitting in Bombay. And the best connection was the guy sitting in Switzerland. And I didn't even know he
Sure.
was in Switzerland. So, I mean, now, and, we are always so broke in the arts. So, like,
Yeah.
oh, they have to travel, we have to pay, for a flight. How are
Sure.
we going to do it? Now everyone's accessible. which is
Yeah.
wonderful.
So in a way,
So
the pandemic has sort of, opened up the Pandora's box in many ways, because even the webinars and the sessions we're attending, you suddenly have access to this
yeah.
plethora of talent, and it suddenly comes into your living room. It comes into your bedroom.
I think the arts and culture fraternity have got together. See,
Mm.
artists need to perform. That's how they
Sure.
thrive. I mean,
Right.
forget
Right.
the money part. They
Correct.
need to perform. They need to put their art out there. I think the arts and culture community have done a great job at just getting to it really quick, putting out wonderful programming. In fact, there's so much cool stuff happening. I'm sometimes like I'm jumping from one webinar to another just to get a little bit of this, a little bit of that, so I get
Sure.
FOMO for JOMO, whatever one of those. And I think it's an exciting time, but then there's also something called digital fatigue, which will kick in.
Sure.
So one has to also be very responsible in the kind of programming that one puts out, because it's not just putting out a program; it's also growing your audience, growing their learning, their understanding, having them come back for more, and growing your programming. Um, so yeah, I think it's an exciting time, and again, collaboration. Lots of people are doing it together.
Sure. Um, so as we're nearing the end of this, I just want to talk a little bit about, some of the high moments of your career, some of the most sort of
Oh God.
cherished moments, either with Avid or the Opera House, something that you will just sort of that stays with you.
It's like I joked when you told me you're going to ask me this question. I said, like, it's like asking someone who's their favorite child. Luckily, I have only one
Right.
child, so I can answer that. So I'm fine.
Sure.
But no, I mean, it's a bit of a tough one. But I think off late, the madness of launching Avid Online in such a short time with such a quantum of programming. I mean, doing a program a day
Hmm.
for 2 months in a row. It's kind of crazy in a way, but we did it. It was great. I have a great team. Some of them are online. I can see them, and but the Opera House obviously is one of my dear favorites. I've had there are series I've been so passionate about. There's a series called Multipolis Mumbai that we went into the second or the third edition. In fact, we did 52 episodes of it. I mean, I'm trying to bring it back. My team doesn't let me. Every time I suggest, they
Wow.
say no. But so these are all some things that I've just had so much fun, working on. I've learned so much, and it keeps coming back full circle. So in a way,
And so I've also had the pleasure of meeting your team a couple of times, not only in your offices,
yep.
but I see them on ground. They're always sort of scurrying around, making sure everything is absolutely perfect in the events. Tell us a little bit about the team. How do you assemble a team that sort of supports you through so much work? I know the kind of work you guys put in.
So first thing, I don't hire through a traditional form of hiring. I don't think that works for the arts.
Sure.
I meet people at strange places and events. They say, "Oh, we're interested. Oh, you work in Avid? Okay, come." And before now, it's easier because people kind of know who we are. But before, people didn't know who you were, right? So
Sure.
I think you just meet someone, you see chemistry, you see a willingness to learn, grow, and that's it. And then you also try and find and mix and match people's interests and skill sets to what they should do. And
Hmm.
to be honest, this is not, I'm not undermining what we do. It's not rocket science. It's not. It just
Sure.
it's passion, common sense, and dedication.
Yeah,
And
I mean, you're being extremely
which
humble. I know the amount of work and
Yeah, but
thought you guys put in.
we do. But the thing is, it shows, right? At the end of it, you'll come back to our event, and as I say,
Sure.
you're as good as your last event. And
Sure.
yeah, I'm very fortunate to have a very good team, and we have fun. I mean, that's I mean, years ago in New York, I did this campaign with PwC, and it's why do you wake up in the morning? And it was very interesting. It was called Sunday. It wasn't my campaign, but it was a campaign. And think about it. I mean, I probably don't differentiate between a Saturday, Sunday, or a Monday, because work happens and every day you're doing something. And because for what we do, a lot of our work happens in the weekend. And when you reach that stage when it all blurs, your personal and professional
Sure.
contacts are one. your professional and personal socializing becomes is you don't know which one you're
Sure.
going to,
Right.
and you're enjoying what you do, and you think you're making a difference. That is the point when you know it is a good thing. And also, if I sign up for classes, I sign up for workshops, I scour the Insta
I've seen
lives
you
to
at the
hear
workshops. I've seen
conversation.
you several
I
times.
like to
Sort of, you
listen. I
sit
mean,
through
I
the
like to
workshops.
hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I sit and I do other stuff also, but I actually sit. I
Sure.
think, we really have this tagline at Avid, which is learning never stops, which is something I actually firmly believe in. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I used to go to classes and courses at the age of 16. And, even now, I mean, you tell me we go for the stalk, and now because we can't go, I'm just loving JLF Brave New World online. I mean, I've been going there we moved back 10 years ago. I've been there like 9 years in a row. The only year I didn't go
Sure.
in was my daughter was born, and I mean, I feel I'm sitting in the first row in Diggy, kind of consuming the content, and I
Sure.
think what digital has done is it's put it in your hands, and put it in you in control of how you want to consume it, which is, I think, a good way of being so.
Sure. So, going to have to close now because Insta Live would suddenly cut us off. But the pause at the end of every sentence for you is like you're just dripping passion. Every sentence stops with passion and then starts again with passion because that's what I'm hearing and that's what I'm feeling as you've been talking. Like you're just a lot of passion, a lot of heart and soul in what you're doing. And as you said, like if you keep the money aside and you focus on what your passion is, yeah, I mean,
Sure.
you've been so fortunate, right? Like you got patrons like the Ruya family, you got the royal family of Gondal. They just obviously they also sensed something in you, right? They knew you were a man, so purely focused on the arts that they were also happy to have you as part of their team. So obviously a big endorsement, and then the money just came, right? So I mean, I've seen your journey over the last decade, and it's absolutely fascinating to me how you basically you created everything, like it's like this magic wand, and obviously I'm simplifying it, but it just sort of like the whole universe sort of really did collude to make what you wanted just happen. And I mean, I'm obviously a big fan of yours, as is very evident. So I'm just thrilled to have you on the show. And of course,
Thank you
as Reach
so much
Ivy,
for
if we
having
can
me.
be of any support in any way, not just being one of your logos, but I mean like real support, we are one phone call away for you. So thank you so much for coming to the
Thank
show,
you. Pleasure.
and we'll look forward to tuning into much more of your programming, guys. Please do follow Avid online. That's the hashtag
At Avid Learning, you just find
at
me.
Avid Learning. Please find at
Hmm.
Avid Learning to tune into some of their programming. As he said, he's doing one program a day. And to also tune into the Royal Opera House, I've tuned into some of those events, and they're just absolutely fabulous. So please, and also please follow Asad personally because I've seen some of his posts, and those are also quite fascinating. So thanks so much, Asad, for joining us,
Thank
and
you. Thank you,
it,
guys.
and thanks for making it at this odd hour. I know you're an early person, but I request
That's
you to do
right.
this 8 p.m. show, and you were so kind to do this. So
Yeah.
thank you, and please say
Thank
hi to
you.
your lovely wife and little hug to your
I
daughter.
will.
And
I will.
your daughter and we share a birthday, so there's something
Yes,
just
yes, I
absolutely
know that.
special about that bond. So thank you so much. Oh, someone's asking if you can spell Avid Learning. It's at Avid Learning, and
Yeah.
it's
AVID learning. Yeah.
yeah. Thanks, Abel. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, great. So, Asad, if you'd like to you can exit by just pressing end, and I'll just wrap up the show.
All right.
Okay,
Wonderful.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. It's Avid Learning, as Abel has spelled out. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us in yet another episode of House of Experts. Today was episode 12, believe it or not. And we're going to be back on Saturday with a very dear friend, Gauri Devidayal, who runs the table in Kolaba and runs Magazine Street Kitchen and many, many other restaurants. So be back to understand what goes on behind the scenes in the food and restaurant business. And of course, if there are any specific sectors that you're personally interested in, please do DM us on Instagram, and our team will obviously take in your request and we'll try and find an expert. And if there is an expert you know who you think we should invite to the show, write into us and we'll be happy to take them, bring them on live to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to sign off and let you guys enjoy the rest of the evening. But lots of learning, lots of passion, as I said on this episode. It seems to be the flavor of every talk we've done. Approach whatever career you're taking on with true passion, heart, and soul, and somehow miraculously things work out. So that's my big takeaway from the last 12 episodes. Let's see what episode 13 has in store. Have a very good evening, guys. Going to sign off. Have a good night.